The upper level of the institution was never listed on public schematics. It did not appear in investor briefings. It was not included in architectural tours. Elevators reached it only with restricted authorization, and even then, the final ascent required manual confirmation from within. Those who worked below referred to it indirectly. They called it the oversight tier. Inside that tier, no branding existed. No decorative statements of mission or culture were displayed. The space was constructed for review, not inspiration. Walls were matte. Lighting was neutral. Sound insulation absorbed echo. At the far end of the corridor stood a reinforced door. Behind it existed what internal documentation described only as Archive Layer 4. Externally, the organization projected transparency. Reports were comprehensive. Financial disclosures were timely. Governance structures were formally articulated. The appearance of openness was meticulous. Layer 4 did not contradict that image. It simply extended beyond it. Within this archive, there were two categories of records. The first contained decisions. The second contained a reasoning that never entered official minutes. The latter was referred to privately as the Shadow Vault. It did not store secrets in the theatrical sense. There were no scandals concealed within its drawers. What it contained were unfiltered assessments, provisional calculations, preliminary doubts, and scenario analyses that never matured into policy. The Shadow Vault held intention before it was refined. The individual who oversaw Layer 4 had maintained its integrity for years. Access was not determined by seniority, but by structural necessity. Even executive members required written justification to review certain files. The oversight was quiet, precise, and disciplined. Below this tier, a strategic director had risen steadily through the organization's hierarchy. The ascent was not aggressive. It was efficient. Responsibilities had accumulated through demonstrated reliability. The director's portfolio expanded incrementally until oversight of 3 major divisions fell within reach. Performance metrics supported the growth. Quarterly outcomes exceeded projections. Cross-department collaboration increased under this director's coordination. Reporting delays diminished. Decision cycles shortened. Efficiency had become the defining attribute. The oversight tier observed this progression without interference. At first, nothing required correction. Then language began to shift. Internal memoranda authored by the director increasingly referenced streamlining archival redundancy. The term appeared innocuous. Redundancy suggested inefficiency. Efficiency implied progress. Within committee meetings, the director suggested that certain preparatory analyses housed in upper-tier archives could be consolidated into operational repositories. The proposal was framed as modernization. Documentation flow would accelerate. Transparency would appear enhanced. Redundant oversight layers would be reduced. The argument was logical. The oversight authority requested clarification, not on outcome, but on structural impact. The director responded with detailed charts. Graphs demonstrated time savings. Projections estimated increased agility. The tone remained respectful. Yet embedded within the charts was a quiet assumption. That preparatory reasoning did not require preservation once a decision had been formalized. The oversight authority did not respond immediately. Delay can be mistaken for hesitation. It was neither. The Shadow Vault did not exist to store nostalgia. It existed to preserve cognitive context. Decisions separated from their reasoning become brittle. Without context, reinterpretation becomes easy. Easy reinterpretation destabilizes precedent. The director's proposal implied that operational summaries were sufficient historical record. Sufficiency is often defined by convenience. The oversight authority requested a pilot program. Limited consolidation. Restricted to a single division. Evaluation period, 6 months. The director accepted. The pilot began quietly. Within weeks, archived preparatory assessments from that division were relocated from Layer 4 to a digitized operational system. The reasoning documents were condensed. Annotations were summarized. Peripheral scenario analyses were deemed non-essential. The summaries were accurate, but they were compressed. Compression alters nuance. Below the oversight tier, the effect was immediate. Division managers experienced faster approval cycles. Queries referencing past reasoning were answered through simplified documentation. Interpretation required less cross-reference. The director's standing strengthened. Efficiency validates authority. Within Layer 4, however, the oversight authority observed pattern shifts. Requests to review contextual documents decreased. Cross-reference inquiries from operational teams diminished. Decisions were cited without acknowledgement of the contingencies that had shaped them. Precedent began to appear cleaner than it had ever been. Clean precedent is seductive. It implies certainty. Certainty invites overextension. During the 4th month of the pilot, a policy revision emerged within the test division. The revision relied heavily on a prior decision archived in summarized form. The operational summary suggested firm consensus at the time of original approval. The shadow vault's preserved context told a different story. The original decision had been narrow. It had passed by minimal margin. 2 scenario risks had been flagged but deferred due to timing constraints. Those risks had not materialized immediately, but they had never been dismissed entirely. The summarized version contained no trace of dissent. The revision proceeded based on perceived unanimity. The oversight authority intervened, not publicly, not confrontationally. A formal inquiry was issued requesting review of archival completeness prior to implementation. The request halted execution temporarily. The director responded with composure, providing access to the condensed files. The oversight authority compared them against preserved copies within Layer 4. The discrepancy was not falsification. It was omission. Omission can be more destabilizing than error. When confronted privately with the comparison, the director did not deny the absence. The explanation was measured. Operational relevance determines scope. Scope determines memory. Memory determines authority. The oversight authority acknowledged the logic without agreement. The pilot was not terminated. Instead, it was extended for additional evaluation. Extension introduced tension. Below, division managers sensed delay without clear cause. Above, the oversight tier recalibrated review protocols. Future consolidation would require parallel retention of unedited preparatory documents. The director adapted quickly. Future proposals referenced full-spectrum documentation compliance. Language adjusted. Acknowledgement of contextual preservation appeared in memoranda. Outward alignment restored equilibrium. Yet the initial pilot had revealed inclination. The shadow vault had been treated as optional. Optional oversight invites structural imbalance. 6 months concluded. The evaluation report was neutral. Efficiency gains were documented. Minor contextual oversights were noted. Recommendations included conditional continuation with enhanced safeguards. The director received provisional approval to expand consolidation into a 2nd division, under strict dual archiving conditions. The expansion proceeded, but something subtle had shifted. Operational teams, accustomed to simplified precedent during the pilot, now encountered layered documentation once again. Queries required deeper review. Decision cycles lengthened slightly. Perception adjusted. The director's authority remained intact, yet the ease that had accompanied the pilot diminished. Ease can create expectation. Expectation, when disrupted, breeds quiet friction. Within the oversight tier, Layer 4 remained fully intact. No document had been permanently removed. The shadow vault continued to accumulate context that might never enter formal minutes. The director continued to ascend within visible hierarchy. Invitations to strategic planning committees increased. External recognition followed. Publications cited operational efficiency as benchmark. Visibility expanded, but above visibility, the shadow vault remained. And it did not compress. Expansion into the second division began with procedural clarity. Unlike the pilot, this phase carried formal safeguards. Dual archiving was mandated. No preparatory assessment could be condensed without simultaneous preservation in its original form within Layer 4. Compliance checkpoints were embedded into the consolidation workflow. On paper, the director's framework now aligned fully with oversight requirements. In practice, compression continued, just more carefully. Operational teams, having tasted abbreviated precedent during the pilot phase, subtly favored summaries over context. When both versions were available, they consulted the condensed file first. Only when ambiguity emerged did they escalate upward. Escalation frequency declined. The director did not instruct this behavior. It evolved. Behavioral drift requires no directive when incentive aligns with convenience. Over time, the volume of contextual reviews requested by division managers fell measurably. Decision briefings referenced summary conclusions rather than deliberative history. Language shifted from "as previously debated" to "as previously determined." Determination sounds definitive. Debate implies contingency. The oversight authority monitored the trend without interruption. Metrics were gathered, not only on document retention compliance, but on retrieval patterns. Data revealed that contextual files remained intact, yet were accessed far less frequently than operational summaries. Preservation without engagement is passive erosion. The director's position strengthened in proportion to this erosion. Efficiency metrics continued to outperform historical averages. Cross-division alignment appeared smoother. External audits praised clarity of documentation flow. Public success generates insulation. Insulation can obscure imbalance. 3 quarters into expansion, a strategic initiative was proposed involving capital reallocation across 2 divisions. The proposal relied on performance precedent drawn from the pilot division's condensed archives. The summarized history portrayed consistent stability following earlier policy revisions. Within Layer 4, the preserved context reflected a narrower picture. Stability had been contingent on specific market conditions. A secondary risk parameter, originally flagged during preparatory debate, remained unresolved but dormant. The strategic initiative did not reference that parameter. It did not deny it. It simply omitted it. The oversight authority did not block the proposal. Instead, a structured review was requested under Risk Calibration Protocol. The review required inclusion of original preparatory assessments in strategic modeling. The director complied, though timing was affected. Financial projections had to be recalculated, incorporating contextual contingencies. The adjustment reduced projected return by a modest but visible margin. Not catastrophic, but less triumphant. Within executive meetings, tone shifted subtly. The director's initiative was no longer positioned as acceleration. It was framed as conditional expansion. Condition alters perception of strength. No confrontation occurred. Instead, compression deepened. The oversight authority implemented a procedural refinement applicable to all divisions: quarterly context reconciliation sessions. During these sessions, summary documentation would be cross-referenced publicly against preserved preparatory records to ensure alignment. The measure was justified as institutional integrity maintenance. It was systemic, not personal. The first reconciliation session revealed minor discrepancies across multiple divisions, not solely those under the director's coordination. Most discrepancies were benign: simplified language, streamlined rationale, truncated debate notes. Yet the visibility of comparison altered internal behavior. Managers began consulting Layer 4 archives more frequently before presenting proposals. Referencing contextual nuance became reputationally protective. Presentations grew more measured. Momentum slowed slightly across the institution. The director adapted again. Internal memoranda began emphasizing contextual continuity. Proposals included dedicated appendices summarizing preparatory dissent and risk scenarios. The language now preempted oversight inquiry. Adaptation signals intelligence, but adaptation also signals constraint. Despite outward alignment, retrieval data from the shadow vault revealed a pattern. Contextual documents were accessed predominantly when required by protocol, not by initiative. When reconciliation sessions were absent, summary reliance resumed. Reliance on condensation persisted beneath compliance. Compression is rarely reversed voluntarily. Mid-year, an external regulatory update required institutions within the sector to demonstrate transparent decision traceability. The Oversight Authority seized the opportunity to integrate Layer 4's preservation model into formal reporting. A public-facing white paper was released detailing the organization's commitment to retaining full deliberative context behind major decisions. The director was credited in part for modernizing archival systems. Credit can coexist with containment. The white paper elevated institutional reputation. Transparency was celebrated. Industry peers requested consultation. Internally, however, the integration meant that contextual preservation was no longer merely internal protocol. It was external obligation. Obligation limits maneuverability. The Shadow Vault's status shifted from optional oversight layer to foundational compliance pillar. The Director's consolidation framework, once designed to streamline and reduce archival weight, now operated under expanded scrutiny. Any attempt to compress contextual nuance risked regulatory attention. The environment had changed, not dramatically, structurally. Within executive corridors, perceptions adjusted. The director remained effective, respected, and capable, yet authority no longer expanded through simplification. It expanded only through documented alignment. Expansion through alignment requires patience. Patience slows ambition. During a strategic retreat, discussion turned to future governance evolution. The director suggested gradual migration of contextual archives into an integrated analytic platform, arguing that enhanced searchability would improve engagement with preserved reasoning. The suggestion was technically sound, but migration implied reformatting. Reformatting alters emphasis. The Oversight Authority proposed a pilot feasibility study rather than immediate implementation. Parameters were narrow. Evaluation criteria were stringent. External consultants would participate. The timeline extended 18 months. Delay introduced distance between proposal and execution. Distance diffuses momentum. Meanwhile, reconciliation sessions continued quarterly. Retrieval metrics stabilized at higher levels. Managers became accustomed to referencing preparatory context in presentations, not as obligation, but as strategic reinforcement. The culture adjusted. Efficiency remained valued, but context regained stature. The director's influence did not diminish visibly. Titles remained. Portfolio breadth remained. Compensation reflected performance. Yet initiative now required layered validation before reaching implementation. Initiative under layered validation transforms into stewardship. Stewardship is quieter than ambition. Within Layer 4, the Shadow Vault expanded steadily. New preparatory assessments accumulated alongside preserved dissent, scenario modeling, and provisional calculations. Access logs demonstrated increased cross-tier engagement. The vault was no longer shadow. It was structure. One evening, during routine oversight review, the authority compared retrieval data from the initial pilot phase to current metrics. The contrast was precise. During early consolidation, contextual access had dropped sharply. Now, it approached historical averages. Compression had met resistance. Resistance had reconfigured behavior. No directive had accused the director of imbalance. No reprimand had been issued. Instead, environment shifted around the initiative until structural equilibrium reasserted itself. The director understood, not through confrontation, through pattern. Proposals grew more conservative. Consolidation rhetoric softened. Emphasis moved toward integration rather than reduction. Public posture reflected partnership with oversight rather than modernization of it. The shift was subtle, but irreversible. The shadow vault remained intact. And now, indispensable. By the beginning of the following fiscal year, the language of the institution had changed. Not dramatically, not symbolically, but structurally. Efficiency was no longer described as acceleration. It was described as traceable clarity. Strategic proposals did not open with projected gains. They opened with documented lineage. Every initiative carried a visible thread connecting it to preserved deliberation. The shadow vault was no longer peripheral. It had become reference. The feasibility study regarding archival migration concluded after 18 months of controlled evaluation. External consultants delivered a neutral report. Integration into an analytic platform was technically viable, but it required standardization of contextual records into searchable fragments. Fragmentation risked detachment. Detached reasoning becomes abstraction. The recommendation was to maintain dual format preservation, searchable indexing layered over intact original documentation. The director endorsed the conclusion publicly. Privately, the endorsement signaled acceptance of constraint. The initial consolidation ambition to streamline, compress, and modernize archival weight had been absorbed into a structure that resisted simplification without preservation. What began as reduction ended as reinforcement. Operational divisions no longer perceived contextual documentation as bureaucratic overhead. Quarterly reconciliation sessions had normalized engagement with preparatory assessments. Managers referenced dissent notes strategically during planning meetings to demonstrate thoroughness. Thoroughness became reputational currency. The director's influence recalibrated accordingly. No longer measured by how quickly decisions moved, it was measured by how comprehensively they were defended. Proposals grew denser, not longer, anticipating questions before they were raised. Anticipation replaced acceleration. Externally, the institution's reputation solidified around governance discipline. Regulatory bodies cited its documentation traceability as sector benchmark. Industry forums requested case studies on contextual preservation. The oversight authority spoke publicly about structural memory as strategic asset. The director sat beside that authority during panel discussions. The optics were unified. Internally, however, the director's discretionary space had narrowed permanently. Any initiative that appeared to reduce archival nuance triggered automatic review by compliance subcommittees. No directive had assigned this trigger specifically to the director's portfolio. The system itself had evolved. Structural evolution leaves no single point of resistance. Mid-year, an unexpected market disruption tested the institution's adaptability. Competitors reacted swiftly, implementing aggressive policy shifts to maintain liquidity. Analysts urged comparable decisiveness. Within the institution, the director proposed a rapid countermeasure. The framework was technically sound, supported by recent performance data. Execution required expedited approval cycles. Expedited cycles had once been the director's strength. Now, expedited cycles invoked protocol. The oversight authority requested full contextual modeling before action, not as obstruction, as procedure. Historical precedent under similar disruptions was retrieved from the shadow vault. Past scenario analyses were re-examined. Risk parameters previously deferred resurfaced. The process extended several days beyond competitor response timelines. Externally, observers questioned whether delay signaled hesitation. Internally, the modeling revealed a secondary exposure embedded within the director's proposed countermeasure, an exposure not visible in condensed performance summaries, but evident in preserved preparatory debate from years prior. The countermeasure was adjusted. Projected returns diminished slightly. Stability increased substantially. When market volatility stabilized weeks later, institutions that had reacted aggressively faced unanticipated strain. The measured response proved sustainable. The director's reputation did not decline. It shifted. No longer architect of acceleration, the director became steward of calibrated execution. Authority remained. Influence remained. But neither extended beyond documented boundaries. One afternoon, during archival review, the oversight authority observed retrieval logs from the early consolidation period compared to current patterns. The graph displayed a clear inflection point, the quarter in which reconciliation sessions were introduced. Before that point, contextual access had fallen. After that point, it never receded. Cultural shift rarely reverses once normalized. Late in the year, the director submitted a proposal unrelated to archival structure, a leadership succession framework for mid-tier managers. The proposal emphasized mentorship, cross-functional exposure, and governance literacy. Embedded within it was a requirement that emerging leaders spend time within Layer 4 reviewing historical deliberations. The requirement was not mandated by oversight. It was volunteered. The shadow vault, once perceived as archival weight, was now positioned as developmental resource. Transformation had completed its arc. The oversight authority approved the framework without amendment. Months later, during the annual governance summit, the institution announced creation of a context integrity office. The office's mandate was preservation, indexing, and educational integration of preparatory reasoning across divisions. The director was appointed its inaugural executive sponsor. The appointment did not expand discretionary power. It formalized alignment. In private, the oversight authority archived the final report from the initial consolidation pilot. The document was annotated with a single internal classification, structural correction, resolved. No conflict had ever been declared. No reprimand had been recorded. Yet the trajectory of influence had altered permanently. Acceleration had been absorbed into architecture. Simplification had been reframed as contextual integration. The shadow vault no longer existed as separate layer above operational flow. It was embedded beneath it. Authority within the institution no longer derived from proximity to speed. It derived from proximity to preserved reasoning. The director adapted fully. Proposals moved deliberately. Language anticipated contingency. Summaries never excluded dissent. Preparatory debates were referenced explicitly rather than stored silently. The organization's public narrative celebrated modernization. Internally, preservation had prevailed. Years later, new executives entering the institution encountered Layer 4 not as mystery, but as norm. Access protocols were routine. Reconciliation sessions were expected. No one recalled a time when contextual compression had been considered efficient progress. The moment of imbalance faded into documentation. Documentation endured. In the final review cycle before retirement, the Oversight Authority conducted a last private audit of the Shadow Vault. Files were intact. Retrieval metrics steady. Cross-references consistent. Cultural adoption complete. The institution no longer depended on a single guardian to preserve its cognitive memory. Structure had internalized the function. As the Oversight Authority exited the tier for the final time, there was no ceremony attached to Layer 4. No plaque. No announcement. The reinforced door closed softly behind routine inspection. Below, operations continued with measured cadence. Decisions emerged with visible lineage. Dissent remained recorded. Summaries remained accountable to source. The Shadow Vault had ceased to be shadow. It had become foundation. No dramatic reversal had occurred. No confrontation had unfolded. Yet the direction of influence had been redirected permanently. Simplification had met architecture. Architecture had endured. And within that endurance, authority had been redefined, quietly, conclusively, without spectacle.